All right. I'm gonna do this whole thing while wheeling around in this chair in here. Just follow it. I never get a nice smooth floor to do it on and accidentally sour this. Great.
So you have like friends and family down here?
Great.
So my mom's in Punta Gorda,
Oh, okay.
so that's, yeah, so that's why.
Morning. Still got a minute. All right. Morning.
What's a sticker?
It's
Oh, it's a, oh, okay.
did you know I'm the national manager?
You have to,
Oh, really? Okay.
It doesn't work with your own machine. It only works. It's not
Okay, yeah.
It works.
And
Okay,
the guy in the last meeting's not happy. He's like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it only works with the school machines.
Gotcha.
I'm sure we
Okay, I
can
have a lot of
set
questions
This
for
is
you.
kind of like smartboard.
Yeah.
He's on the internet.
You can just touch it, touch the board.
Yeah, if you like.
You're
Go
doing this all.
left and right, go left and
No,
right.
no, it only works with the.
Oh, the special computer, not,
Yeah,
yeah.
the school computer.
Well, I mean, we could like plug one of these things.
I think we're okay. I don't think we need that. I got, wow. You're brave, but you're in the splash.
I was just already there for a while.
All right, cool. It's 11. We might as well get started. Right? I think lunch is after this, which is awesome. Can't go wrong with that. The only thing better than that is like the last session before the bar run, right? But here we are. First of all, I want to thank the organizers here and everybody that's put this together. This is amazing for a first year. This is awesome. So well done. Kudos on that. And thanks for having me. I appreciate it. All right. Now, how many of you have heard the phrase humans are the weakest link in security? Right. I hate that phrase. I absolutely hate that phrase. It's something that, I work in the people side of things, the human side of things, and I hear it all the time. And I think we gotta stop saying that because I think they can be our greatest asset if we let them be our greatest asset. The problem is, unfortunately, we kind of get in this mindset that they're a problem. But somebody mentioned today in the keynote, right, about people. We just get rid of the people, right? Without the people, we don't have a business. Without a business, we don't have a paycheck. We don't have a reason for existing. We don't have a way to be there. And one of the things I really try to help people understand is while we may get frustrated with the choices that users make at times, it's okay. We hire accountants to do accounting. We hire HR to do HR. We don't hire them to be cybersecurity experts. Now, does this mean that they don't have any role in this or responsibility? No, absolutely not. But if you keep running around and we keep saying, you're such a problem. If you're a problem, how do you think they're going to feel about us? And when that weird thing comes through that could cause problems, are they going to pick up the phone and call us to degrade them and talk bad about them? No, they're not going to do that. And I will tell you right now, it has personally saved my bacon where I've had somebody call up and be like, I don't know, this is probably nothing. I think I'm probably wasting your time, but, and it turned out it wasn't. That is the kind of power that we get by dropping this kind of stuff. So I wanted to start with that. My name is Erich Kron. I'm a CISO advisor at KnowBe4. If you've heard of KnowBe4, raise your hand. Yay. Okay, awesome. See, I started off there 9 years ago and nobody knew who we were. They were like, what's KnowBe4? Oh, we're client, my company. Awesome. I was always like, we're like PhishMe, only better, right? Because that was the big names in there. And now all of a sudden we're like the 800-pound gorilla. But I've been there for 9 years. Before that, though, I've done a lot of stuff in the sector. So I've worked in the industry since the 1990s. My first network was Windows 3.1 running on Lantastic, if that makes sense. That was a long time ago. Any of you don't know what that is, that's quite all right, okay? This is like pre-Clippy days. So I've worked in a lot of different industries, healthcare, I spent about 10 years with the Department of Defense, where I ended up the security manager for the Second Regional Cyber Center. We ran all the network infrastructure for North America between all the post camps and stations. It was really cool. Saw a lot of cool stuff. Wanted to write a book, but I just have to call it redacted. Right. But one of the things that I realized throughout the years is how important the humans were in this battle that we're at. And one of the things I think we start with is people in organizations severely underestimate what the adversaries look like. And the adversaries don't look like this. They aren't the kids in the basement drinking Mountain Dew, eating pizza. There are a couple of those. But for the most part, these are very organized groups. They know what they're doing, especially when it comes to exploiting people. If you look, the number one way that initial network intrusion typically happens is some form of social engineering, suckering somebody out of like their credentials, getting them to click something or whatever. We kind of know this, right? The cool stuff, the exciting stuff is when they get in actually and start exploiting and doing all that kind of stuff. But tried and true, go for the people, right? But cybercrime, what we don't understand or what we don't give them credit for is just how organized and just how much money they have behind it. So Bloomberg did this article. I thought this was kind of amazing. If you took cybercrime and made it into a GDP, a gross domestic profit, it would be number 3 on the planet behind the US and China. There's that much money moving around in the cybercrime side. And in order for them to make that much money, in order for them to continue to generate that kind of revenue, they have to be pretty organized. And a lot of these actually, like I said, they run like businesses. We're talking about HR departments. We're talking about like time off, parking spots. Like they run as businesses in these places.
Hiring?
I know. You know, I do these talks and I joke a lot that like, gosh, it would be so easy to think about going the other way and, you know, be a bad actor for a few years, buy a nice island in the Caribbean and just retire down there. Right?
Was it the potential jail time, right?
Well, you know, and my CISSP, right? I had to agree to be ethical, so I would lose that clearly, and I don't want to do that. I worked pretty hard on that one, but I mean, we're talking about big fun. We're talking about people that really know what they're doing, and they apply true psychology to this stuff, which is kind of amazing. Like this is advanced. They have psychometricians. They have all that. I mean, let's talk about the way some of this stuff is happening, right? Qantas, you probably heard of that, all right? They believe it was Scattered Spider. You may have heard of that. Pretty interesting group. Mostly native English speakers that really love to do phishing. Phishing is the great way to do things. They're making phone calls, folks, and they're doing well. I mean, Qantas here, they basically called in, as I understand it, they called in and they said, hey, I got a new phone, or I lost my phone, now I have a new phone. I need to get to my email. And they talked to the help desk rep that worked for the organization doing help desk for Qantas into setting up the email on their phone. And then they were like, oh man, well, it looks like it's almost ready to go, but it's asking me for this MFA thing. And I don't have that anymore in this phone because the other phone is lost or broken or whatever. And they talked them into actually moving the MFA over to that phone. So the legitimate person lost their access clearly, but they talked about an MFA and credentials, and boom, they were in their email, they were in the system, and they went from there, right? It went after the person. That person and that help desk, I'll bet, violated a policy or two, unless their policies are very poor, but probably bypassed or violated a policy or two to get to that point. They were like, oh, this person's really stressed out, they're having a hard time, I'm not gonna, they sound like I believe they would be. Now, if those people had stuck to the script, and this happens a lot of cases, it may not be in this case, but in general, if people stick to the policy, stick to the script, we can stop a lot of this. But for whatever reason, due to social engineering, we did not do it. Okay. We saw some interesting stuff here too. I love it. They do think that AI may have been used in this in the voice, and my guess is it would actually be to add the Australian accent. Because Scattered Spider is typically English speakers. It's one of the reasons they're really good at what they do. But this was definitely an AI deepfake driven attack here. Marco Rubio, they created a Signal account. They made audio that sounded like him, left voicemails, tried to get people to respond to that. And the thing is, once you believe something, once you are biased to believe that this is Marco Rubio reaching out to you, you're going to continue on, and these deepfakes are just going to reinforce that. That's our mental way of thinking. Deepfakes are great. They mostly reinforce those conscientious biases we already have. So they didn't get very far with this, but I thought it was interesting. What do they want to do? They want to pop them over on Signal and move it out of ways that we generally monitor and look at. That's becoming a more and more popular tactic, is to move things out of like email, for example, and onto WhatsApp or one of those other platforms like that. This I thought was interesting too. This is people stuff. This gentleman here, he was a high school athletic teacher who was apparently not doing so well. And so they were not going to renew his contract. The principal said, not doing it, not renewing the contract. So this guy goes out, spins up a deep fake of this principal saying all kinds of horrible, like racist, anti-Semitic stuff, and then drops it in the community. He goes, here's your principal, right? And people lost their minds. Well, it was totally deep fake. And it takes a while to clear that stuff up. That's kind of the dangerous, scary part. When we're people, again, if we already want to believe that sort of thing, we are not going to double check it very much. And there was a flip shot of this, which was this one. So this went on a while back. This is a BBC article about a mother used an explicit deepfake photo and videos to try to get her teenage daughter's cheerleading rivals kicked off the team. So cheer, I guess, is this big, super competitive thing, right? Yeah, you're not, right? We did color guard, not cheer, but it was the same sort of thing. Right?
That's all crazy.
Yeah, there's drama and all this stuff. Well, one of the parents was like, hey, here's like these people and they're doing bad things, and sent a video and some photos. And they said she deepfaked that. He's like, they're just trying to get everyone kicked off the team. Unfortunately, it turns out that was not a deepfake. It was real stuff. But they got dragged through, I mean, all the way over into BBS and stuff. This gal got dragged through the mud by people saying, oh, look what she tried to do to get her kid on the cheerleading squad. Right? It's being used both ways, which is an interesting thing I don't know what we've thought about before. But can you imagine having an article about you in the BBC saying stuff that's absolutely fake about you deepfaking something like that, and then they have to retract it? How many of you read the retractions? Nobody ever, right? Once the damage is done and the clicks happen, they're done. But this is all kind of psychological warfare. This is stuff that people, even out in the neighborhoods, are having to deal with these days. And within your organization, it's not going to be any different. This kind of stuff is now easy to do online. How many of you use like HeyGen, right? To build an avatar? HeyGen's easy. 11 Labs for voice stuff. Like, it's amazing what you can do for almost nothing just on a website. It's kind of crazy. We're going to see more and more of this kind of stuff being done in public, but also within organizations, being targeted within organizations. And we got to think about that, because who's being targeted? Your employees, the people, right? And we can't trust what's real anymore. I mean, clearly this is me, right? No?
You're bigger arms.
Yeah, you get or something, man. I like people too much, right? But you know what? If somebody were already predisposed to believe something and you see a picture like this, I don't know. Or other things, like when we had the LA protests and the Air India crash, like that evening, there were deepfake photos and videos going on. I saw them like this family that was supposed to be boarding the plane in India. How many people have ever seen anyone stop at the door and be like, hey, everybody, and here's my family, you know, as they're walking onto the plane? It never happens, yet these videos are being dumped out there purporting to be real. People are believing it. It's rolling around. It's pretty crazy. So they get in your head. They get in the employees' heads. How do they do this? Well, for one thing, pressure, urgency. How many of you have seen like a phishing or vishing or even a smishing attack that was like, hey, whenever you feel like it, can you wire out a bunch of money? Or like, if you got time later on, you know, maybe tomorrow, go grab some gift cards, you know, whenever it's convenient for you. You know, the IRS is gonna arrest you in like 2 weeks if you don't bother getting up. It never happens that way, okay? It's always a sense of urgency. It's always a fear-based something that's driving them in there. And when that happens, it does mess with our psyche pretty good. Now, fear and urgency are a great way to do that. The other thing that works really well is, quite frankly, just blending in with other tasks, right? Things that you think are normal. Now this was a few years ago now, by a few, I mean, quite a few. There was a gentleman, he was at the time 48-year-old Lithuanian guy, came up with a brilliant idea, spun up some offshore companies that were named very similar to those that were used regularly by Google and Facebook. And he just started firing them invoices. $100 million was paid out before they realized that, wait a minute, this really isn't that vendor. That's $100 million, man. Again, the temptation sometimes to go buy myself an island in the Caribbean by doing stuff. I mean, that was designed just to slide into the normal workflow, a relatively um, common type of vendor that they were used to seeing. They just started paying these things, right? Well, obviously, there's processes that are broken there that eventually an audit found. Because who the hell pays out $100 million without having a receipt for that, or really putting it up against something that's a real charge, right? But companies do it all the time. What are we pushed for? We're pushed for quick moving, we're pushed for efficiency. We got to do this now. Now, there's two processes of thought that Daniel Kahneman talks about. If you've never heard about this, I love this. This is System 1, System 2 thinking by Daniel Kahneman. And essentially, this explains a lot of the stupid decisions I've made in my life. Okay. It comes down to is System 1 thinking is a very low, it's a low effort thinking. Like our brains use a lot of the calories we burn every day. Our brains use a lot of calories. So our bodies like to stay in almost like a cruise control state where it's not working super hard all the time mentally. Some people, and we all know people that we worked with or have family members, pretty sure they never come out of that state. Okay, we've all been there, we've seen that. But System 1 is where we do our normal things. It's where we breathe without thinking about it. It's where we move around a little bit without thinking about it. How many of you have ever done a drive that you've missed like 5 minutes of? You're like, you know, I drove down from the north of Tampa yesterday, and I'm reasonably sure I was just brain dead for a third of that drive because I was in traffic. It was ridiculous, right? That is System 1 thinking. Yeah, we're actually steering the car, we're moving along. In states other than Florida, people will use the turn signal. God, this is a quiet crowd. Come on, y'all, wake up, man.
What's a turn signal?
What's it? Yeah, you drove a BMW, perhaps. No, I kid. But these are all the things that we do kind of in the background, right? Now, System 2 thinking is where we step out and we actually apply thought. It's where we do our critical thinking. It's where we do tough math. It's where we look at things very closely. Now, System 1 is also where we go when we're in fight or flight mode. Now, I was in the Navy, I was active duty Navy for a while too, before my IT career started. And one of the things they would do is you'd be walking along the ship and they would call a fire alarm and you had to pretend to put out a fire. Which really felt stupid. You're standing there with the pretend hose, or maybe you have the hose and you're moving it around trying to put out a fire, and you kind of feel dumb. But why do they do that? They do that to train us to react in a urgent situation. If there's really a fire on the ship, we don't want our dumb butts to be over there looking through the manual like step one, grab a hose, right? We don't want to be learning it on the fly. Like, no, we want to be able to react to it. That needs to be our secondary reactions. For those of you that were like maybe Army or Marine Corps, how many times did they teach you to take apart and rebuild your weapon pretty much with your eyes closed? You could do it in your sleep. Why? Because in a high stress situation, you're able to do that if your weapon jams on the battlefield. That all becomes part of your system one thinking. Now, system two thinking burns a lot more calories. It's a lot harder for our bodies to do that. And we spend a lot of time avoiding going into system two thinking.
So I don't use the terms.
What's that? It's yeah. It's those that are actually using other things. Yeah. But it is super slow. This is prone to making mistakes. System two is far less. And I'll give you one more example. If I ask you what 2 + 2 is, you automatically know it's 4. If I ask you what the square root of 367 is, you're going to have to go to system two thinking to figure that out. Okay. We don't know it. It hasn't been driven into us. Well, when it comes to people, there are actions we want to drive into us. Okay. We're going to do another psychology slide here, which I love. I haven't done this one in a while. The OODA loop. How many of you have heard of the OODA loop?
Anyone who sat through my brief.
Okay. Yeah, so the OODA loop is kind of cool. You know, observe, orient, decide, and act. This is how we process stuff all the time. We don't think about it. It's not a conscious decision. Oh, look, I'm going to observe now, right? It doesn't work that way, but it's how our minds work. So I'm going to observe this class, for example. I'm going to orient this group right now where I'm standing. And I'm going to go, oh, you know what? I actually want to hide behind the lectern a little bit. And that is a lectern, not a podium. I was corrected on that by my friend James McQuiggan. If any of you know him. Anyways, I may decide that I want to be there oriented, right? And then I'm going to make the decision of what I'm going to do, which is take a couple of steps to the left, and then I'm going to act. Now I get over here, and the same thing happens. I'm like, okay, am I far enough hiding behind the lectern, or do I want to hide behind it more? Like our brains work in this. Now, bad actors can get in and disrupt our observation, like what we see, what we feel out here, the things around us. If they can mess with that observation, or they can mess with where we sit within that observation, then they influence the decision and the action that people take. So when they call up and say, hey, I'm an employee and I lost my phone, and they talk that person into believing that they are an employee that lost their phone, they have now messed with their observation. They have observed that their role is oriented, they're there to help, right? You can disrupt those, you can drive the output of a person. So that's our psychology lesson for today. Congratulations, kids. I always love talking about this because I love social engineering. I think it's fantastic. Now, what do we do about this? Okay. Can't catch human nature, but you can train people to recognize when it's being exploited. I love that quote. According to ChatGPT, I said it. Okay. Now I've said it for real. I don't remember saying it the first time, but when I did a ChatGPT search on myself, it came up with that quote, and I was like, that's pretty smart. Now, I may have said it in a talk somewhere or something like that, because I absolutely agree with it and align with it 110%. We can't change the fact that when we're under pressure, we're going to fall into system one thinking. We can't change the fact that when somebody is threatening us, we're going to respond in a certain way. Or if we're being told that something is urgent or we've messed up, that our heart rate is going to go up. There is no way we're going to stop that from happening. But we can recognize that that may be somebody doing that on purpose, whether it's through a phone call, through a text message, through an email. We teach people to recognize when that's happening. And then our response, we want to teach them, is going to be more along the lines of driving ourselves into system two, which means stepping back and looking at things critically. Instead of having that knee-jerk reaction like, oh, the CEO says I missed an email and I didn't wire some money today, and I'm gonna get fired if I don't do something, right? Instead of that reaction, because they're gonna give you the way out, and the way out of that is generally do this right now or else. Okay. But if we can recognize that, if we teach people to recognize that and to react by taking a little bit of a deep breath, stepping back and looking at this, we'll be way, way ahead of the curve on this. Okay. Now, defense is a combination of tech and humans. In the beginning, I'm a nerd, right? I really totally am. Bill can probably attest to this. Like, I love blinky things. I love electronics. I love I just love it. But as I mentioned, I had to learn in my career that there's also the people that are involved, that are being targeted, that have honestly been the source of many of my problems. Now, again, that's different than saying humans are bad, et cetera, and blaming that basically. But I can step back and go, okay, so the people were attacked, this happened, I gotta do something about that. And that was a difference, and it's something that was very uncomfortable to me in the beginning because I'm a technical guy. I got into this field because I love being in a data center with the fans whirring, I can't hear anybody, isolated, right? Like, I don't want to be around people generally, which is weird that I do public speaking. Okay, Bill knows, like, when I'm done with some of these things, I'm such an introvert. If I'm on the road, I'll go back to my hotel and just stare at a blank wall for a while. Like, I don't want to deal with people. I don't want to go after for drinks or any of that typically, right? That's just how I work. And the thing is, we've got to address that though. Even if it's uncomfortable for us, we've got to make sure we're addressing our human risk within our organizations. So what do? We've given security awareness training. How many of you love that phrase? Security awareness training. Okay. Yeah, I worked for No before, right? That was our thing. Security awareness training. But security awareness training itself sucks. Why has security awareness training sucked? Well, there's some good reasons for that. First, we can't expect something for nothing. So we've got to put forth some effort, right? I can't tell you, and I love that this has been evolving. But in the beginning, 9 years ago when I started this, I cannot tell you how many organizations did the annual security awareness training where they stuff somebody in a room and they show a PowerPoint or something and toss some coffee and donuts at people and they go, okay, go on and be secure for the year. Right? And we expect something like that to work. Organizations, we've actually developed into doing this a little bit better. I see more and more organizations doing it a few times a year, smaller sorts of things that are more relevant, which is a good idea. You go hear about some of that. We got to put forth some effort into this. But given that it's typically the number one way that bad actors are getting initial network access, it kind of makes sense that we should probably put some effort into this. We focused on the wrong thing in training in the past. And you'll hear me talk about this in some upcoming slides, but we focused on awareness. We focused on telling people, you should use a better password, go do it. Why? Why does it matter to them? The hell does it matter to them if they use the same password everywhere, right? We just tell them to do this and don't really give them a reason that it matters to them. A lot of places are checking the compliance costs, even today, right? Cyber insurance, it's always going to require some sort of training, at least annually. The better ones I'm understanding are actually coming into where you're having to do it more often than that. So that's good. But typically speaking, they're meeting compliance and moving on. That sucks. That's not good for anybody. We tend to be technical people, not trainers. We tend to not want to be in front of people. We tend not to want to people in our roles. I actually love seeing it when human risk, when these parts of it, like the education part of human risk, rolls into like an HR department. I actually like to see that because they're people that are focused on human behavior. They know humans, they work with humans. A lot of those people are extroverts, which is terrible. Any of you ever been to like a HR conference? It's way unhooked. It's pretty great. Yeah, you're laughing. Like the SHRM conferences, man, those people, when they let their hair down, it's an interesting time, I gotta tell you, right? They are like extrovert people. They're used to dealing with people, and I'd like to see that happen there. But our messaging has also been focused too much on the organization. We talk about what this does for the company. You need to keep the company secure by using MFA. You need to keep the company secure by doing this training. It's all about the organization, it's all about the company. And that's not good. Now, awareness means nothing on itself. Traditional security awareness formula has a fundamental logic error, which is if I tell people something, then they will change their behaviors or actions. The goal needs to be changing behavior, not simply making people aware of something. It's a ridiculously stupid example that I use that I've been using for years, but I haven't come up with a better one. I'm always good for that. But if I tell you there's a blue car in the parking lot, you're aware of it, so what? Who cares, right? If I tell you there's a blue car in the parking lot that has your name spray painted across the side of it, all of a sudden you care. For one reason, it's becoming more relevant to you, right? But just supplying the information to somebody doesn't mean it's going to change their behavior. They're going to do anything about it. You know, if we just tell people, hey, Bill, you know what? Short passwords are bad. Thanks for coming to my session, right? What the hell does that do for anybody? Nothing. But we've spent a lot of time focusing on that, not the behavior change. And just because I'm aware doesn't mean I care. So we got to ask ourselves this: do we care more about what our people know or what they do? And the answer should be what they're doing, their actions, their behaviors. Now, again, just telling something to somebody is not going to necessarily change their behavior. There are cases that somebody is able to put these things together for themselves and say, this is why I care. Now, how do we do it a little bit better? Well, don't try to train on everything. Don't try to do it all at once, right? One of the things I do like about simulated phishing attacks is you can kind of get an idea where the weaknesses are in your organization. Like if your organization never opens like documents that are infected in these simulated attacks, don't waste your time training them on opening documents. Don't waste your time. They already got that part. Let's go for the things that they keep falling for over and over again, right? You can focus your stuff on that. Choose a couple of behaviors that you want to tackle at a time and work into that. Way too often, people try to fix everything at once, and it's just too much. Pick a couple of behaviors. Make sure people can see how what we educate them on ties into them personally, not just the organization. I love talking to people and tying it back to like social media accounts and what can happen with that if a social media account gets taken over because you have a crappy password and they go attack your friends and family and things like that. Nobody wants that. And the reason is a lot of times we use these simple passwords. We don't enable MFA. We're not protecting ourselves and everyone else. But it doesn't necessarily have to be about the company, because if they understand that theory, And why you would do it, they're generally going to apply it at the organization if you have the policies in place to do it. They're gonna go, okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. As opposed to trying to push back or work around. Make it a little fun. Historically speaking, a lot of security awareness training has been boring as hell. And it still can be. I'm not gonna lie. I just went through our sexual harassment training. Okay. Honestly, this is like the fourth time I've gone through that same sexual harassment training, and it's kind of like, hey, it's time to start assigning something new to us, right? When I was with the Army, DISA training over and over every year, it was the same thing. It got super boring. You know, and they tried to up the game a little bit. They did like the classified stuff where you're supposed to check an office in this virtual office for things that may be left out on the desk, right? Even just, you know what I'm talking about. Well, when that went out, there was also a spreadsheet that typically goes out that has the answers to all of those questions. Right? We've been through it so many times at this point, it's like, whatever. It was no big deal. All right. But make it fun. Have a little fun with it. Gamify it, even within your organization. I love it when organizations put together like little contests, like who reported the most, what department reported the highest percentage, and then maybe give them a trophy that they pass around, throw some Swedish fish at them, or whatever. Just it doesn't have to be anything big, but gamify. Have a little fun with it. There's no reason not to do that. We don't have to be stuffy about this. And if you're not comfortable doing that, get with your HR department, get with your marketing department, and ask them for help working with the people side. And then use shorter training. Okay, I'm a big fan of monthly training, but only like 5 minutes. Okay, and you make it relevant to the time. You got the holidays coming up. This is a perfect time to start talking about scammers and holiday and stuff like that, and getting people used to looking for these sorts of things. Because it's coming up, they're going to pay attention. They're going to be like, you don't want your family to get robbed. You don't want them ripped off. You don't want to go buy a PlayStation 5 and end up with a brick in a box, right? It happens. But make it personal with them and relevant and something that's going on at the times. If I'm at this time of year and I start talking about tax fraud, it might be a little too early. Right? They're gonna go, I don't have to worry about that for a while. Yeah, no, make it relevant to the times. But first quarter, you better be doing some tax fraud stuff. Talking about W-2s, talking about their own information. Now, the other thing we can do that I really love is the idea of nudge. We want to nudge people into doing something instead of forcing them. And I blatantly stole these all from Perry Carpenter. Okay, these slides. Perry Carpenter, super bright guy. I just love this. Talking about like how we can do this. Putting fruit at eye level is a nudge. Banning junk food is not. So we've seen this kind of thing happen in organizations that have like a cafeteria that want to go a little more healthy. Instead of putting the Kit Kats and the Twix bars at eye level on the way out of their little cafeteria place, that's where they put the more healthy choices. The other ones are down low. That's a nudge. Okay, you gotta go out of your way to get a Kit Kat bar, which I will do. Just throwing that out. How many of you gentlemen have seen this? Right? Ladies, have you ever been to an event room, right? The fly on the urinal, right? That's a very powerful nudge. It was actually designed by a janitor at the airport in Amsterdam, who got tired of mopping under the, right? And so, and I would never want this job, but there is somebody who looks at these urinals and decides the precise point where there's going to be less backslash. Okay. Not a job I would ever want. But then they place something like the fly or something there as an aiming point. That's a nudge. Nobody up here is saying, don't pee on the floor, go for this spot, right? We don't have to be told that. It's a guide, right? But also we see it in stuff like this. So this is a box, I believe this was a Germany. I'm not exactly sure. But if you look at this, now imagine you're standing there with the soda bottle. Okay? And you have a choice to make. Do I go to the left side or do I go to the right side, right? Do I bother to recycle or not? Well, if you look at this, the landfill, it looks nasty. It's garbage just being poured out of the back end of a truck. It's probably hard to see from here, but it's not very nice. The recycle side though, man, that's pretty. White background looks good, right? That reinforces doing the right thing. I don't want to make more of a mess if I don't have to. I'm standing right in front of the box. I'll put it in recycling. That's a nudge right there too, that also works very well. Now, there's pictures of things you put in there, and of course, people are gonna put all kinds of other crap in there too, but you kind of get the idea, right? If I have that choice, that nudge may get me to do that. We can do these sorts of things within our organizations as well. We don't have to always explicitly say, thou shalt do this. We can put nudges in to make things a little bit easier to go that way. Things we want to teach people. First of all, pay attention to the request itself. Is it strange? And I say that because AI is taking over the world. Okay. So does it matter though? If a call comes in that sounds like your CEO and it says, I need you to go buy a bunch of Apple gift cards or I'm going to jail. We'll just go extreme on that, right? Like I didn't, what is it? I didn't go to jury duty. If I don't do this now, I'm going to, whatever. I need you to go buy a bunch of gift cards and then send me the numbers, right? If you understand that this is a scam, that there's a scam out there to get you to buy gift cards, and it's a big one that everybody ends up having to deal with at some point. Even if it does sound like the CEO, you may go, okay, and then contact them again just to confirm. Sir, ma'am, just wanted to make sure that was you asking me to go get these things. Okay. If we recognize the scam itself, it doesn't matter what lures they use in the beginning. It really doesn't. So help teach people that. Teach them to listen to their intuition and emotions. How many of you have ever gone to somebody that's created an incident and you're like, why did you click on that thing? Not in an accusing way, but trying to figure it out. And they go, well, something, it sounded weird, but I just kind of talked myself into it, right? Happens all the time. We have good intuitions. We just choose to ignore them. Part of that is the friction of calling us and going, I may be wasting your time, which we need to overcome. But we need to empower people to listen to their emotions and their intuitions. We want to teach them how the scams work and the red flags. Red flags are definitely there, and people will care, especially if you say, hey, here's red flags of a scam. It may hit you at home too. Or if you see a family member being asked to go wire a bunch of money, who the hell wires money these days? That's a good thing for you to know and go, hey, Uncle Bob or whatever, and put the brakes on. And understand that attackers use social engineering and emotions to push us into doing unwise things. Okay, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Now we want to teach people not to trust anything without checking. We just can't anymore. We can't trust audio, video, photos, none of that anymore. Can we just trust at service value? It's the world we live in now. It just is what it is. Okay. We want to make sure that if they have a strong emotional response to a phone call, text message, or email, that we train them to step back, take a deep breath, and force that critical thinking, as opposed to panicking and doing whatever the way out is the bad actors are teaching us. Take a deep breath. I tell people this all the time. If it's the CEO and if they're mad because you didn't wire the thing out, that 30 seconds you would take to take a deep breath, stand up, and walk around the desk isn't going to be the difference between you working here tomorrow or not. It's not. So take that time, take that deep breath. Don't let them push you around. You need to teach them to use unique and strong credentials because, yeah, all the time. But make it relevant to why they should do that at home too, because how many people do you think use the same credentials at home as they use in their work computer, right? They don't want that. Let's teach them these things. This is something else we can educate them on. And we need to have technical controls, patching, MFA everywhere. Now, MFA is not bulletproof, but I am a big fan of MFA. It can be very powerful. Use DLP to watch for data being stolen, because people will make mistakes. They will accidentally send stuff to their own people. How many of you have had that happen, right? Oh, I didn't mean to send you that form. Okay. Have good EDR controls in place. We need to have that. Remember, it's a combination of human and technical controls. Make sure the basics are covered. I can't tell you, I used to do a talk on kind of the fundamentals and basics. And a lot of people these days are forgetting the foundational things, right? What permissions do user accounts have? You know, all of that kind of stuff. What assets do I have? No. They go for the big blinky box, which I have been drawn to. I actually had a switch in one place that it was beautiful. I turned off the lights in the server room and just watched the lights blink. It was freaking awesome. I'm half tempted to buy one off eBay just because it still takes me home, right? But we need to make sure that we're doing the basics, not just the blinky box stuff. So in summary, cybercrime is bad. Big business, they have the funds to do things. You've got to not underestimate them. They're using psychology. They are using that against people. You can't believe anything. AI is making them more efficient. We're seeing numbers go through the roof on phishing attacks and even polymorphic stuff. It's just so much faster, so much more efficient. And it takes tech and human controls to defend against the attacks. So having said that, I'm pretty much out of time. Feel free to scan either of these QR codes. They're totally legit. If you want to, I mean it. If you do want to connect with me on LinkedIn, this one over here, this is like a feedback on the session one here that they sent me here. So I do appreciate it. I would love to talk to you all throughout the conference if you have questions and stuff. Sorry, I used all the time. It was kind of short in order to do this. But thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Trust my verify. And besides Tampa, Rick rolled me with the damn it. That was awesome. I got done with my talk and I'm walking down the hall and there's like a couple people asking me questions. He's like, hey man, you mind if we connect real quick? I'm like, no, that's fine. And I click him and it's like, son of a bitch, Rick. I was like, no. We're doing this the other way around this time. You're scanning my QR. I'm the first to pull it out. Yeah, I was like, that was brilliant, man. That was yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
So, yeah. You mentioned about
Sludge.
it's the stuff that slow things down, right?
You stay down.
What meant to be in there was
Yeah.
Do you guys have dates for next year?
We about this time. I just wanted to see how this year was going to go. But I think it's, so this is a fall thing. Okay. I'd like to be careful about other events because I have a problem. Stepping on each other because they're not paying attention to what else. We look, we might get, I mean, some of the bigger conferences are the beach sides going on.
Purpose. Yeah, I think it's Jacksonville.
Well, yeah, but it was like a problem with like inside Tampa that wasn't paying attention and stuff on. Yeah, not just this year, but they're already stuff on them for next year.
And we were like, what was going on? And they went back.
They just sent me.
I've seen something.
Right.
It's like a venue. I mean, it's a pretty good venue.
You don't know, they changed it on us.
So like, you know, you just take a look.
Oh, is it better?
This is a good building.
Yeah.
The other building though is cyber building. This is the math building.
Okay.
The other building is the school business development with the cyber.
And does it have anything special in it?
Yeah, I mean, it has the cyber labs. But this is a better format for this kind of thing, but.
Yeah, I think we're supposed to be upstairs.
Just reach out to it. It's love my voice, chat with us. So, yeah, like, nice seeing you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, that's, yeah, it's like a thought
Lunchtime, man. Thank you.
I'm not here, I was supposed to give an introduction, but I figured.
I was gonna go and ask you.
Yeah, that's fine. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, yes, sir. Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, just like that's.
The last slide.
Yeah.
You change tenses to the same thing, heard or see, instead of receive.
Yeah, we'll do that.
I saw it.
Like I said, I believe that. I just put that summary together like a couple days ago. And, yeah, of course. Good call. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the group.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
I have a question. Good talker.
Yeah, what do you got?
Are you still producing the Inside Man series?
We are,
Are you? Okay.
not me personally,
Okay,
right?
your company.
Season 7 is coming out at before Kron or conference school.
So the four of us actually all work for the health.
Okay.
I'm a security architect. That was our CISO that just walked out. Oh, Brian and jacket. But we were wondering, is there a way? So we're not your customer right now. We got our security awareness from Kron. But we are interested in licensing the Inside Man series, so that we can show you.
Gotcha.
And I'm curious if there's an option, there's a way to price that.
I don't think we've ever done just the Inside Man series. It's just part of the package.
Right, understood, which makes sense. Yeah, normally.
Yeah, I've never.
So what we'd like to do, and maybe we become like, maybe we become a complete no before customer.
I'm okay.
Right, but we sort of start with the carrot, right?
Yeah.
The series. We want to do a screening, like over 6 months, right? We
Yeah.
let employees come watch the TV show with us and then do a Q&A anchor, right?
Yeah.
And so.
So I'll bet we can figure something out with season 1.
Okay, right.
Because
That's where we'd be starting.
season 1 was actually on Netflix for a little while.
Yeah.
And it's been out there a little bit. We could probably work something out with that.
Okay.
Now, I'm not the person to do that, but if you want to hit me up on
Okay,
LinkedIn and
yeah.
just send me a message, I'll get it to somebody.
Excellent.
Because I don't think we're holding on to season 1 all that much, and
Right.
yeah, that's not a problem.
Right.
And then
Maybe by then, season 3, we're full of season 2.
I love it. I actually may have a little spot in season 7.
Really?
Depends on
Awesome.
if they cut it. It's a stupid little speaking line, but it's not. It's like almost nothing.
It's not corny, right? That's what I recall.
No.
It's like a watching a TV show.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, and it's actually designed in an episode and season format.
Yeah.
So a lot of our customers, what they'll do is throughout the year, they'll release one a month. And then at the end, they'll have a big watch party with popcorn and pizza and stuff, and like drag everybody in, and you know, people are hooked, and then it's like, okay, when's the next season, right? So
It gets people
I love it.
interested. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know the producers and director of that, Jim Shields and Rob McCollum, fantastic people, like, that's their life is filmmaking. And they take it very seriously, so I loved when we did that.
Are you direct sales or do you go through bars? What's your model?
We do both.
All the above.
Yeah, all the above.
Okay.
We go through, I think, AWS. We're out there in the marketplace and like.
Oh, so you can buy the products through the US.
Yeah.
We're a CW customer or, you know.
We
Yeah.
never CDW all the
Yeah,
time.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how, I mean, that's not my value, right? That's the
Yeah.
else's.
Yeah. So we've got over 70,000 customers now.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. Okay.
That's a pretty healthy number, and
Okay.
our channel is working well. So
So it was kind of my idea. I brought this up on a team call a couple months ago.
hey, thanks, boss.
Really,
Appreciate that.
and get the one off?
Yeah, everything went well.
Perfect.
I don't know what it recorded, but
Well, it's not recorded.
that I can't promise you. So
Yeah, I'll stop there.
cool. Thank you.